So, hello everybody, and welcome to this short webinar, which forms part of our Legal Employer Insight series, where we'll be covering key careers-focused content from predominantly a law firm employer perspective. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Georgina Rothwell from Brabners, who recently completed her SQE studies and her exams, which is fantastic news. And she's very kindly agreed to give a bit of insight and to share her experience of what she does now in practice. I hope it'll be useful for those of you who are just starting out on your SQE journey, or if you're still at university perhaps and just considering your potential future careers within the legal sector. It's going to be really helpful also to learn a little bit about what somebody who is doing a training contract is actually doing from a day-to-day perspective. So Georgina, welcome, and thank you so much for sparing the time to speak to us. Can I perhaps just start off by asking you really to describe a typical day in your role?
Yeah, of course, no problem. So normally once I first come in, I'll always review my emails and make my to-do list. So lots of flagging of my emails. And then kind of from there, it'll depend on each day. And it very much depends on which team you're in as well. Normally I try and prioritize going through and chasing things first. So if I need to chase anything from the court or from clients or from the other side, so that's normally when I'll try and do all of my correspondence first thing. Then I'll try and move on to any chunkier drafting that I need to do. So yesterday, for instance, I did a letter of claim for a client. Because then it enables me, obviously, as a trainee, you're still getting your work checked quite regularly. So it enables me to then send that off as soon as possible for review. And then by the afternoon, hopefully I can get that back, do any amendments and then send it off. Also, sometimes I get to go to court, which is fantastic. That's a really good experience. In my previous team, I got to do some of my typical days would include being able to do my own advocacy in the county court, which was fantastic. Really good experience. And just overall, it massively varies on a day-to-day. It's quite hard to say necessarily what a typical day might look like because there's such a wide range of tasks that I might get to do. But yeah, normally first thing, prioritizing the day and then kind of seeing from there what will happen.
And like you said, I mean, it can vary day to day. And of course, each law firm has quite a different structure to its training contracts. Just out of interest, do you have a 4-seat rotation at Brabners?
Yes,
Okay,
4 seats.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've just moved. So I was in housing and regeneration litigation for my first 6 months, and then a month ago tomorrow, I moved to the commercial litigation team.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And how did your sort of expectations of working in a law firm really compare to the reality of working in a law firm?
Well, my expectations predominantly focus on that kind of stereotypical view that a lot of people have of law firms, of that it'll be a really highly structured environment with a very clear hierarchy, that partners especially, and also solicitors to legal directors, wouldn't be very approachable and that you would be left on your own a lot. And whilst you are encouraged to look on your own and try and figure things out as much as you can on your own, there's also such a massive collaborative atmosphere. Again, that will vary on depending which law firm you're at, but Brabners really prides itself on the fact that it is a collaborative and teamwork focused firm. So they were my main, I'd say that's the main difference of like my expectation versus reality. And everyone's just fantastic to be able to go up to someone, and even if you know it might be a stupid question, but you've tried doing the research, you've tried to figure it out on your own, but sometimes it's just not meant to be and you can't figure it out and you just need to ask someone. And being able to chat through and being able to be in a firm where you can actually talk it through, sometimes that's all you need. So
yeah,
yeah.
kind of, it's reassuring, isn't it, for
Yeah,
you, I
definitely.
suppose. And just reflecting on your SQE now that it's behind you, which I'm so sure you're relieved by.
Yes.
Can you just sort of tell me a little bit about whether the SQE sort of prepared you for your current role, or how well, I suppose, it prepared you for your current role?
Well, I'd definitely say, obviously, in terms of like the legal aspect, it provided a really solid foundation
Mm,
and experience for being able to have the tools at my disposal and being able to actually use them and know how and when you should use specific tools.
mm,
So especially with like legal research, that's such a massive thing as a trainee. You'll quite often get asked to do a bit of research because the partner might know, but they might want just such a really niche specific question answering that they might think they know, but they're not 100% sure about. So then it's being able to find that. So that definitely really helps. Um, I think as well, particularly with SQE2, the practical side of it and being able to practice the advocacy and the client interviews, that they are invaluable skills because
mm.
you don't get the opportunity to do that until you're in practice. So being able to be with a provider and actually have those one-to-ones with a supervisor and practice properly, because you just can't you won't be able to get that skill set otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'd say they're the two main things of just being able to have like that solid legal foundation, but then also backing it up with experience,
Mm.
practical experience, and then being able to apply that once you're actually in practice.
No, that's really helpful. And just focusing, I suppose, on skills, you talked about client interviewing and advocacy. Are there any particular skills or perhaps gaps in your knowledge that you wish you'd sort of focused on a little bit more before starting your training contract?
I'd say it's more a confidence-based thing that I
Mm,
wish I'd focused on a bit more. I, in theory, knew how to do things and
mm,
knew how to speak to someone and interview and knew how to do the advocacy and I knew how to do the research and draft things. But sometimes having faith in yourself is actually the hardest uh, obstacle to actually overcome.
mm.
So I wish I'd focused more on actually having confidence in myself and being like, I've practiced, I've done this, I've been successful, I can do this in practice without stressing myself out a lot beforehand. And it just I think maybe that's something that might come with time, but it definitely comes with experience.
And you mentioned about SQE2 and the particular sort of focus that it has on the more practical skills aspects of practice. Were there any particular aspects of SQE2 that you felt were more valuable than others in preparing you for practice?
I thought that the exercises in the client interviews and advocacy were really good,
Mm,
especially when you'd get to have those one-to-ones. I think because particularly in the later stages, you'd get really detailed feedback. And you'd get with the latter ones, you'd actually get to speak through with the person on the call. And I think that's where I learned most
mm,
with those skills. Um, I'd say less so when you would record yourself and then you'd review yourself because sometimes you think I've done really well there and I think I've hit every point and then that might not necessarily be the case. I think sometimes you need that external view to actually look at it and say, okay, you've done really well here, but you could have just linked here and
yes.
moved this around and actually being able to verbalize that and have a proper thorough conversation with someone makes all the difference in the world, I think.
Brilliant. Um, so I'm going to let you go in just a second, Georgina. Thank you. Really appreciate your time. Just
No
really just as
problem.
a kind of takeaway, I suppose, for those people who are watching this and thinking about undertaking SQE, do you have any advice to a prospective student who's perhaps considering SQE and obviously going into a training contract?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably things that they've all heard countless times, but embrace it with open arms and be open-minded and have a proactive attitude. Um, SQE is very intense. They are difficult exams to sit, but they provide you with such a solid foundation if you want to go into becoming a solicitor. So use everything at your fingertips. Talk to everyone that you can, all of your peers and all of your teachers, and read as much as you can. It doesn't necessarily have to be all of the materials that you've been sent. Also look outside of that, read the Law Gazette, become as well-rounded a person, because that'll really inform you as a solicitor and your skills, and just make the most of it, because it is really interesting and you develop so much as a person. So I just say, dedicate your time, knuckle down. It's just a few months at the end of the day, but you'll end up loving it.
That's such great advice. Thank you, Georgina. It's really sort of enlightening to have such an inspiring person. So thank you, because I
Thank
think
you very much.
it really helps people who are considering this route into their legal career for the future. And you've been really, really inspirational. So thank you so much again for your time, and wish you all the very best for your training contract.
Thank you very much.